series, which is what initially got me interested in the series, and also the fact that they made a TV show covering like the first 3 books or something. So this is really high on my priority list. I just don't have the physical copy right now with me. It's somewhere in the mail. It will get to me. Okay, number 2, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, and I actually do have the physical copy. It's absolutely huge. I've actually never read anything by Charlotte Bronte, and the reason why it's in honorable mentions is because I'm not really that interested right now, but that might change in like a few weeks. I feel like, you know, I always wanted to read it, and then I never actually got myself to actually reading it because it looks intimidating. I do have the Czech edition, but eventually, you know, I want to read it. I know that it's a great story. Okay, number 3, Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. Now, I wanted to read this book for such a long time, and you know, especially when the series first came out, and I think I got the books when I got only first 2 books when season 4 was I think coming out, so it was a long time ago. And the reason why I didn't start them at the time was because I was afraid that they're gonna spoil the TV show for me, as in I will like the book more and then I will not like the TV show anymore. And then years passed and season 8 came, and yeah, I'm still mad about it all these years later. To be fair, I think they're making a prequel soon, and I think the original writers that blew it are not really participating in it anymore, I think. So I will be watching it probably. I'm still interested in the world. I just, yeah, like season 8 ruined it for me so much that I wasn't even interested in the books anymore. Also, there's a lot of like violence in it and gruesome stuff, which sometimes for me is a little off-putting. And also, I know that the next book is still not coming out. I know that George R.R. Martin always promises that, you know, it's gonna come out soon, and then it never does. So that's also off-putting, and why it's not really that high on my priority list, because I want the next book to at least have a date, so I would, you know, read the books, the prior books before that one. And I think he wants to make another book after that. Like, I don't think he's gonna finish the series before he dies, so maybe like somebody else might have to pick it up and write the end, but it's tricky because, you know, he has a specific style, I guess, that I think other writers could also, you know, imitate, but it just wouldn't be the same probably. I don't know. Anyways, okay. Next up, The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name right. I don't have the physical copy right now. This is a high fantasy based on actual historical events, and it's based on the Second Sino-Japanese War. a year ago. Was it a year ago? Maybe less than a year ago, actually. And I started looking up different editions, and I was like, well, I don't really like having paperbacks with lots of pages because you can't really open it well, and you know, it's just kind of, it's uncomfortable for me to read, so I didn't want to get a paperback. And this was the hardcover edition that I found, and I loved it. It looked so beautiful. I was like, yes, I'm gonna read this edition. And I think I did my research, and I think I was a bit naive per se, because I thought, like, surely they're gonna make the book readable, right? There's no way they would make a book this expensive for it to not be readable, right? Well, if you look inside, the font is the tiniest font I've ever seen. Let me show it to you. Okay. And I tried reading this insanely tiny font, and like after 2 pages my eyes were physically hurting, which usually doesn't happen when I'm reading, because, you know, I had to, like, you know, focus on the page like so much, and you know, it's so tiny. It really is. So I thought, like, there is no way I'm reading this copy, and I actually really regret buying this copy because it's unreadable. Like, yes, it looks pretty, it looks cool, you know, it goes along with the Russian theme and whatnot. That's cool, but for God's sake, the font, what they were thinking, like, when they made this book, like, were they trying to save paper? Because, you know, originally the book is like 1500 pages, and this book has like 900. They squeezed the book like into 900 pages, and they did by making the font unreadable, literally unreadable. You know, at first I thought it's gonna be fine because it's a large format, so the letters would be big. Well, they are not. So, I don't know, I refuse to buy another copy of The War and Peace. I refuse to. So, because, like, actually the Czech edition is sold out, otherwise I would have just got the Czech edition, because I know they would at least make the letters, like, okay to read. But, I think I'm just gonna try the audiobook, because it's probably the cheapest option, you know, because I still have the script. There's always the link if you want a 2-month free trial instead of 1 month in my description, and I get a 1 free month as well. Like, I think it's the most affordable option for me right now, because I refuse to spend more money on this godforsaken book. So yeah, obviously, like, I pay for script too, but the thing is, like, it's much cheaper than if I would just go and buy a physical copy again. And yeah, I think the audiobook is like 60 hours in total, and that's crazy. But yeah, I could listen to the shortened version, but I don't really want to do. So yeah. Okay. Number two is this book by Patrick Rothfuss, and it's The Name of the Wind. I do have the Czech edition, and finally he posted some updates about the 3rd book. So this is a high fantasy. I think it takes place in like a matter of a day or a few days even, or something like that, which is a really long day, if you know. Yeah, but anyways, there's like magical school involved, and I've heard a lot of good things about this book. And like I said, the 3rd book finally seems like, you know, is coming together. Because at first I thought that we might have another George R.R. Martin situation, but seems like the author finally gained his inspiration, and, you know, he finally have written almost 1,000 pages, 996,000 pages. And I've heard mixed reviews about this one, because it's so long, and I've heard that it didn't really have to be that long, and yeah, it's 1,000 pages. That's long. One thing that I really like about this edition is how nicely you can read it. So I should clear something, because I was talking about how I don't like paperbacks when there's too many pages because it's hard to read. I was specifically talking about English paperbacks. I think English publishers have made their long-term goal to just make the books as hard to read as possible. But Czech paperbacks are totally fine, and I don't know what it is with them, but they never crack the spine. They're just better quality, I think. Maybe, I don't know, this is so easy to read, and I don't know what usually happens with English paperbacks, because I'm reading this paperback right now. It has 500 pages, and my arms physically hurt after reading it for more than 10 minutes. Come on, English publishers need to step up their game, unless it's a floppy paperback. Those ones I like. But speaking of the devil, we have Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. And wait, I should trace the name too. So this is one of those paperbacks that are just so hard to read. And this is I'm holding book 2 actually. This is book 1, part 1. So this is a one book. And they've decided to make it into 2 books instead. Because, I don't know, probably because they cannot make a paperback that, would have 700 something pages and that would be easy to read. Let's face it, that's probably the decision why they made this. I just realized that I have accidentally held book 1 and 2, but only the first parts. So the first book is called The Way of Kings, and the second book is called The Words of Radiance. I don't know why I mixed that up. So this is high fantasy again, and I usually don't find Brandon Sanderson's books particularly intimidating. He kind of introduces you to the world in a very friendly manner, so that's not the reason why I'm really scared. The reason is that I usually read high fantasy only in Czech, and I have read only a few high fantasies in English, and that's why I'm a little scared of this book. Also, it has 700 pages in total, the 2 parts. So we'll see. I wanted to get to it. I have heard nothing but great things about this series, but I think it has more than 10 books, maybe 10 books in the series in total, which is crazy. But yeah, we'll see. Okay, let's move on. I not start with 1Q84. I should start with a different book probably. I do have the English edition. The Czech edition was completely sold out and it was so expensive to buy it used. It was like $35 for a beaten up copy or something, maybe even more. I think this actually specifically was like $45 for a beaten up copy. So I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do that, and I bought the English edition because it's cheaper. So let me read you the back. I just realized that I didn't read like any backs, but that's okay. So this is the real world. There is no doubt about that. But in this world, there are two moons in the sky. In this world, the fates of two people, Tengo and Aumame, are closely intertwined. They are each in their own way doing something very dangerous, and in this world there seems no way to save them both. Something extraordinary is starting. So, I think, wait, it has like, I think these are the three parts. Oh yeah, it says right here, the completed trilogies of these are 3 books in one, and I'm interested in it. Again, like, I've heard that you shouldn't really start with this book if you have never read Murakami before, because he has a specific style. So I think I'll start with Norwegian Wood instead, because I do have a copy of it, so I think I'll start with it. We'll see. Like, I'm not the, I think, well, okay, I'm the person who really likes a good plot in books, okay? If it's character-driven story, usually I get pretty bored. But there are 2 things that can make up for it. One is a really good world building. If there's a really great world building, I don't really mind the absence of plot. And 2, a really great writing. And I've heard that Murakami kind of belongs into the second category. So we'll see. Like, I know that he is a beloved author, but I also know that he's not really for everyone, right? So we'll see if I like it or not. Okay, so that's 1Q84. Okay, now let's move on to the last book that I have here, and I do have the Czech edition again, and it's Outlander by Diana Gabaldon, and it has like this series tie-in, which I'm not really a fan of, and I watched the series already. I haven't watched all seasons. I think I stopped at season 4 or 5 maybe. I'm not sure. So this is a historical fiction about a woman who goes back in time. It has some like sci-fi elements in it, I guess. And she is transported to, is it like 17th century Scotland? I'm not too sure now. It's been a while since I watched the TV show. So, and like stuff happens. You know, I think it's historically accurate for the most part. And I'm interested in the book. I've heard some mixed reviews about this book as well. There are people who absolutely loved it, and there are people who kind of cringe at the romance and are like, you know, it's not that great as people make it out to be. So I don't know which category I will fall in. I hope for into the first category, but we'll see. Yeah, let's just see what happens. I know that there also are probably some really like heavy content warnings involved, but since I watched the show, I feel like I'm prepared for what I'm about to see, and trust me, like some scenes in the first season are just not pretty. My friend who actually introduced me to this show, she never actually got past those scenes, because series, it was so traumatic that, yeah, she just stopped at like season 1, episode like 12 or 13 or something. So, yeah, we'll see, we'll see. I hope that I will like this book, but let's just see what happens. Now, the reason why it's intimidating is because it's also like 700 pages, and as the series progresses, it gets longer and longer and longer. Like, I think some books have like over 1,000 pages. It's crazy, but let's just see what happens. Okay, so that will be it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed this little different video, you know, a different video about books. It's a different format. I would like to make more videos like this, you know, that are like themed in some way and not just duels or, you know, like wrap ups and stuff. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.